Starting off, guys, with the worst card in Clash Royale, we got the Goblin Giant. Ever since they nerfed it 3 times, including its health and the Spear Goblins on its backpack got 2 nerfs as well, it has been significantly worse and just completely dead and the worst win condition in the game. Next up, guys, we got the Rune Giant. Ever since they removed her permanent enhancing, she has just sucked. She's not a reliable win condition either, and she's just very bad. We got the Goblin Machine next. Ever since they gave this card a couple nerfs, just like the Gob Giant, it has been completely dead, and there's not really any deck you want to use it in. Clone is going to be next, pretty much the worst spell in the game. You know, arrows, poison, tornado, just going to be very good counters against it. Even Lava Clone Giant Skeleton, you're pretty much never seeing. It's pretty much completely dead. Barbarian Hut's going to be next, guys. Worst building in the game, in my opinion. Definitely could use a rework or an evolution, in my opinion, in order to be viable. It just does not get enough value for 6 elixir and is too vulnerable to spells. We got the Mirror next, guys. Makes your cycle very awkward. You have to spend 1 more elixir to play the same card, which is not going to be worth it in majority of scenarios. Skeleton Army is going to be next, guys, because besides the Evolved Skarmy, it is pretty bad, and that's the biggest drawback of the Evo Skarmy. You actually have to use the regular Skarmy, and the regular Skarmy, guys, is just atrocious. And in this ranking, guys, we're not doing evolutions, we're doing the standard card. Little Prince, guys, is going to be next. By far the worst champion in the game. There's not really any deck you want to use it in. And ever since, guys, they removed the 3-card cycle for the champions, it's actually been the biggest nerf to the Little Prince, in my opinion, because that capitalized off of the rocket cycle and other things. So for that reason, guys, I think the Little Prince is just very bad, and all the other champions are a lot better than it, and you can't really fit it in any deck. The Barbarians, guys, are going to be next. The standard Barbarians are just very bad. Don't really get any value, way too vulnerable to spells, and even decks like Lava Hound, guys, prefer running the Evolved Valkyrie and other things nowadays, so the standard Barbs are just not it anymore. And the Wizard and Witch, guys, pretty much require the evolution, just like the Barbarians. The standard version are very, very bad, and you're pretty much only going to see people having success with the standard version in mid-ladder. We're going to be closing off F tier, guys, with the Chef. The Chef is the worst tower troop in the game at the moment. I don't think many people would disagree with that. They kind of killed it in the balance changes, and that's also why the Gob Giant and Machine are a lot worse as well, because of the Chef tower troop nerf, and you pretty much never want to run the Chef anymore, even inside of things like Golem and heavier decks. We're going to start off D tier, guys, with the Gob Curse. It got a lot worse ever since they removed the damage amplification. You pretty much only see this from time to time in a lava deck, but it's really not a necessity in anything anymore. It's just lava and E-Golem. Very niche decks, and even in those, it's usually not used a lot. Healer, guys, is going to be next. You could use her if you want inside of Golem or E-Golem, but in those decks, even in those, you typically don't see her all the time, and she's definitely not a requirement. E-Barbs, guys, are very bad, very easy to distract with things like the Skeletons, Ice Golem. They're kind of just a mid-ladder menace card, but they're pretty bad. They are okay in 3 Musketeers, but that's pretty much it, and there's so many other support cards you can use in them instead. Void, guys, is going to be next. No longer F tier after the small buff it ended up getting. It's actually somewhat viable now inside of Lava Hound, as well as E-Golem, but still well below average and definitely D tier, in my opinion, because it's just, you're going to be better off using a lot more spells, even though they did increase the damage by 6% to the main, well, Void, when it's targeting one thing, but I still think it's very bad. Spirit Empress, guys, fell off quite a lot ever since she got that health nerf. You pretty much don't really see her ever anymore. I mean, maybe bridge spam occasionally, but most bridge spam decks don't really use her anymore. Same with the Furnace, guys, especially the regular Furnace, really bad in my opinion, ever since they increased the walk speed of it, and you pretty much have to use the Evo. The regular Furnace is just not really viable anymore after the Furnace ended up getting nerfed. The Elixir Golem, guys, is going to be next. Definitely one of the most inconsistent win conditions in the game. Very risky, doesn't have many good matchups. It kind of relies on having a low skill cap and your opponent not knowing what they're doing, but it's definitely a very below average card, in my opinion. The Gobstein, guys, is definitely a bit better than the Little Prince, but still very bad, in my opinion. Pretty much Graveyard is the only deck you're going to see it in, and that's going to be about it. The Gob Cage, guys, the E-Drag, the Executioner, and the Archers are all very bad, and they're all reliant on their evolution. And even for things like the Evo Gob Cage, Evo E-Drag, definitely still not that great, even their evolution form. In this meta, the Executioner is a little different. The Evo Executioner is decent, but you have to run that standard Executioner before you get to the Evo, which is drastically worse. Same with the regular Archers. All these cards are definitely very weak. The regular Archer is pretty much only going to be good inside of Expo, and you're just playing them to get to the Evolution. If it weren't for these cards having an Evolution, they would not be used. The Inferno Tower, guys, is definitely a very weak building. It's very inconsistent compared to things like the Tesla and the Cannon. It's just too expensive, and it's going to be really bad against Cycle as well as baity decks. But against Beatdown, it can be useful, but even log bait decks nowadays do not typically run the Inferno Tower, and they're going to run things like the Evo Cannon over it. The Zap, guys, is going to be next. The Zap is also just not a very good regular card. You definitely have to use the Evo Zap, which happens to be one of the best evolutions in the game. You get that double reset and, you know, able to take out things like firecrackers, for example, minions, but the regular Zap, guys, is just not really it. You maybe could fit it in a lava deck if you want, or P.E.K.K.A, but you're always going to want to run that Evo Zap, and the regular Zap is just not really getting that much value. The Tombstone, guys, is going to be next. Definitely a weaker building inside of the game, pretty much only viable inside of Lava Hound decks. And even in Lava Hound, guys, you don't even have to use the Tombstone. A lot of people just prefer running the Evo Valkyrie, for example, and maybe they don't even have a building at all. The Giant Skeleton, guys, is going to be next. There's not really any deck that's a requirement in it. It had that meta a couple months ago where it was good with the Royal Hogs, but meta's kind of shifted and no one has really been running it anymore, so it's kind of not really needed in any deck. Rascals are slightly better after the buff they ended up getting, but they're still pretty much only viable inside of bait decks, and there's so many bait decks that don't use the Rascals, so I still think they're a pretty weak card overall. The regular Lumberjack, guys, is definitely pretty bad. Pretty much everyone running it is running the Evolution, and even the Evo Lumberjack is still below average Evolution, so I just think overall it's a pretty weak card. I mean, you could use it in a Bridge Spam deck, but again, you almost always are going to need the Evo. The regular version is pretty weak overall. The Mega Minion, guys, has really fallen off. It's kind of sucked for the longest time. Pretty much Giant's the only deck you're going to be able to use it in, but there's just so many other support cards you can use instead. The regular Battle Ram, guy, is just very bad. Same with the regular Bats. Just the regular card is pretty much unusable for both of these. You pretty much always are seeing the evolution for the Battle Ram. Same with the Bats, especially with how good the minions are. You really cannot be using the regular Bats nowadays, and the regular Battle Ram just gets stopped so easily by buildings and resets, so you kind of have to use the Evo. The Night Witch, guys, is going to be next. Pretty much the only deck you're going to see her in, I feel like, is E-Golem. Golem, you really never see her in nowadays. Same with Giant Graveyard. Giant Graveyard doesn't even really use the Night Witch anymore either, so she's really just fallen out of the meta, and she's just in very off-meta decks. Regular Mega Knight, guys, pretty much sucks. I mean, mid-ladder players really do like running him, but it's just a very bad card overall, easy to counter if you know what you're doing, and I just think it's very weak for 7 Elixir in the vast majority of matchups, especially when you're against a good player that knows how to defend it. It's the same with the regular recruits, guys. The regular recruits, yeah, maybe they're a little annoying, but if you're not using the Evo, kind of forget it. They're going to be very bad at that point, especially with all the Evos that just do such a good job of countering them, and I feel like they're just very easy to stop without the evolution. And even with the evolution, after all the nerfs ended up getting, it really has fallen off quite a lot. Like buildings and flying cards, splash cards are all just going to be a really solid counter against the recruits. The regular Firecracker, guys, is really bad right now as well. She's really fallen off after the knockback nerf she ended up getting. You pretty much have to use the evolution in order for her to be viable, and even the Evo Firecracker isn't in the hottest spot in this meta. Not many people running Evo Firecracker Hog, so definitely well below average. Phoenix, guys, kind of like the Mega Minion, is pretty bad right now. They gave it a buff, but it didn't really do much. I believe it had to do with the egg damage or like the death damage. It's still not really being used in anything, so that buff hardly did anything, to put it simply. I mean, maybe you could run it in a Golem deck if you want, but that's kind of about it. And we're going to be closing off D tier, guys, with the Dagger Duchess. The Dagger Duchess, guys, is definitely a pretty bad tower troop. It's a bit better than the Chef. You're pretty much only going to see it, though, maybe inside of the Hyper Bait decks, or maybe like a Giant deck if you really wanted to, but the Princess Tower and the Cannoneer are typically going to be better. We're going to start off C tier, guys, with the Gob Demolisher. Definitely got a lot better recently, ever since they gave it that buff where essentially, well, I think they gave it a fire rate buff. I'm pretty sure hit speed buff definitely helped it out a lot. You see it occasionally inside a drill again. You can even use it in Giant Graveyard and probably a couple other things like with Miner as well. It's definitely viable again and actually somewhat decent. Electro Giant's going to be next, guys. The Evo Baby Drag definitely helped this card out a bit in terms of reviving it. It was bad for such a long time. It's kind of back again. But Evo Baby Drag did get nerfed, so it's not amazing right now. The Bowler is really good right now, and it pairs very well with it. So it's kind of an okay win condition, but it can be stopped very easily. These Skeleton Dragons, guys, are going to be next. I feel like they fell off a lot. I don't even know the Skeleton Dragons, what deck you can even use them in. Like, I don't even know, like Lava, I guess. They're pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. I think they just fell off a lot because of things like the Evo Inferno Drag and the minion buff. Like, I mean, they're very weak. I'm not going to lie. They're very, very weak. It's the same with the Spear Goblins, guys. The Spear Goblins fell off a ton, too, ever since they got the nerf, I believe, to their first hit speed, I'm pretty sure. So pretty much you're only seeing them inside of Mortar decks or Bait decks. They're just not in everything anymore, like Miner Wall Breaker, Chip decks, Spear Goblins. You're really not seeing them anymore. They're very rare compared to what they used to be. The P.E.K.K.A is going to be next, guys. I think the P.E.K.K.A is not in the best spot right now. The Evo P.E.K.K.A, sometimes she's used, maybe the regular P.E.K.K.A, sometimes she's used. You can kind of pick which one you want and what evolutions you want to match. But P.E.K.K.A's kind of okay, but it's not amazing. I feel like there's so many good evolutions right now that do a pretty good job of countering her and are annoying for her to deal with. So she's not in the best of places in this meta, to put it simply. Ramrider also, guys, kind of the same thing. The Ramrider actually got a charge nerf, same as it was included with the Prince and the Evo Royal Recruits a few months ago. That's drastically made the card a lot worse. With that being said, though, she's okay with the Boss Bandit Bridge Spam decks, but she's definitely a lot weaker than what she used to be, and I would say she's a slightly below average win condition. Goblins, guys, are pretty much only good in Hog X NATO and maybe a Gob Drill deck. They're really not that great compared to things like Skeletons and Guards, obviously. Freeze is going to be next. It's a bit better ever since it got that damage buff. It can actually kill Spear Goblins now, but I still really don't think it's all that. You're still seeing it in similar decks like Graveyard Freeze, Loon Freeze, for example. So it's not really appearing in any new decks. It's just stronger in the decks it was already good in, but I am seeing Graveyard Freeze a little more often, so it definitely is, I would say, at least C tier. Musketeer, guys, Valkyrie, the regular version, both going to be C tier, because I think that the Evo Valk, especially, just so much better than the regular Valk. I feel like the regular Valk really doesn't get used that much, and it wouldn't get used that much if it were for the Evo. And the Musketeer, a little different, though, because I feel like Musketeer can be beneficial to have sometimes over the Evo Musketeer, depending on the deck. But with the Hero Musketeer in the game, the regular Musketeer is obviously getting less playtime, if that makes sense. So I feel like the regular Musketeer, you got to have at C tier, because I think if it weren't for the Hero, it wouldn't be played nearly as much as it is now. So I kind of think of the heroes as evolutions. And then, guys, we got the Goblin Barrel. The Goblin Barrel pretty much requires the Evo Barrel. I think with all the people running Log, Bar Barrel, and Arrows, if it weren't for the evolution, I truly think the Gob Barrel would not be used much right now. So it's the Evo that really carries the card, which is why I think the standard version is definitely C tier. Tesla's going to be next. I think that it's kind of an average-ish building. It kind of does need the evolution. I feel like most people that run it do run the evolution, but there are a few people that run just a standard Tesla, proving how good it is. I feel like it is especially very good against air decks, but there definitely are better buildings than it, in my opinion. The Lava Hound, guys, is going to be next. I actually think the Lava Hound has kind of fallen off, a little bit, I guess you could say. I think that in this current meta, there's so many people that are running the Three Musketeers, and because of all the people running the Three Musketeers in this meta, I think that there's less Lava Hound currently, because it's just such a good counter to the Lava, if that makes sense. So ever since they got reworked, Lava's been a bit harder to run, which is why I think it's C tier at the moment. And then we're going to go in for Mortar next, guys. Mortar, I think, does oftentimes require the evolution, but the standard version is definitely okay. It's going to be a pretty decent, defensive card as well, and secondary win condition, but there just are a lot of good tanks in the game, and Earthquake is in a pretty solid spot as well, so it's definitely not as good as it used to be, and even the Evo Mortar isn't really in the greatest spot at the moment. The Collector, guys, it's surprising because it ended up getting a nerf the same time the Three Musketeers got reworked, but surprisingly, guys, it's still C tier because so many people are running it with the Three Musketeers, and also Golem it fits very well in, so I actually think it's kind of an average card at the moment, even though it did literally just get nerfed, which is kind of crazy. Bomb Tower, guys, is going to be next because there's so many people right now that are running Loon Cycle. I feel like it's a very popular deck in the meta. You also can run the Bomb Tower with Miner, too, where it gets a lot of value. It's going to be a really good counter to the Royal Hogs, which a lot of people are running. And next, guys, we're going to have the Minion Horde. The Minion Horde, definitely not as good as the Minions, but they're still an average card, even after the nerf that the Minions and Minion Horde ended up getting. That range buff has just benefited them so much, and they just get a lot of value as long as you're not running into arrows or something like that. They really do just, they can be annoying to deal with, especially paired with the Giant and things like that inside of Mortar decks. They're really solid. Snowball, guys, is going to be next. I feel like it's alright, definitely not as good as the Evo Snowball, but the regular Snowball does get used inside a Loon Cycle, but pretty much all other Snowball decks, like with the Goblin Drill, for example, typically you are going to use the Evo Snowball for the knockback. The Baby Dragon is going to be next, guys. I feel like the Evo Baby Drag, you really got to run instead, and I don't think that the standard version is all that. I mean, it's going to be okay in, like, Graveyard, Golem, and other things, but I really do think you got to use the Evo. The Prince, guys, is a lot worse ever since got that charge nerf. I definitely think it's C tier, not B tier. It is going to be pretty good with the Giant, but a lot of people actually prefer running the Dark Prince over the Prince nowadays, ever since the Dark Prince got that recent buff a couple months ago. It's kind of surpassed the Prince. The Golem, guys, is going to be next. I think it was a lot stronger a couple months ago. It's still very good right now, or at least average, but I'm seeing a lot less of it, especially after the Evo Baby Drag nerf. I think that toned down the amount of people running Golem, for sure, from what I've noticed. So for that reason, I think that it's C tier, but it's definitely a better win condition compared to the Electro Giant, which is why I have it higher in the tier. The Inferno Drag is going to be next, guys. I feel like it does oftentimes require the evolution. I think there's less people running it right now in general, too, because there's less things like Lava Hound, for example, in the meta, so there's less of a necessity to run the Inferno Drag, but it is going to be very good inside of things like Graveyard Freeze, of course. The Electro Wizard, guys, is going to be next. I feel like it's an okay support card, but there's oftentimes going to be better replacements for it, but it is going to be very good inside a P.E.K.K.A Bridge Spam and Bridge Spam decks in general. You can maybe fit it in a Giant deck as well, but I definitely think there's just better options inside of the game. The Bandit, guys, is going to be very good inside of Bridge Spam decks. I think she's alright, but I just think there's better options than her, like the Boss Bandit, for example, or even the Royal Ghost, which just tend to be more versatile and get more value in the vast majority of decks. Skeleton Barrel is going to be next, guys. Even the regular version, definitely not bad, especially inside of Mortar decks and bait decks or with the recruits. But the Evo, of course, is where it's at, where you're getting that double barrel. That's going to be significantly better. So I think it's kind of an average card, even the regular version. Monk, guys, is kind of an okay champion. It's pretty much only good in Royal Giant, though. That's kind of the main drawback of it. It's really not that versatile at the moment. You're not really seeing many people run into Bridge Spam. It's mostly just played in Royal Giant right now, like I said. Flying Machine, guys, is going to be next. It's going to be alright with the Royal Hogs inside of recruits, maybe inside of a Lava deck here and there, but it's really not all that. It's not that versatile, and it is pretty easy to counter, especially with how prevalent the Fireball is in the meta. Cannon Cart, guys, is going to be okay inside of Bridge Spam decks and Mortar decks, but it isn't always played in Bridge Spam and Mortar. It's kind of, it's based on preference. So it's okay in those decks, but it's not needed. So I think C tier is a pretty good rank for it. The Hunter, guys, is pretty much only used inside of Royal Giant decks. Not every single Royal Giant deck has the Hunter, though. You could use some other variations if you really want to. It is the most common though, but it's pretty much only good inside of RG, and that's about it. So it's really not that versatile, which is kind of the main drawback of the card. The Magic Archer guys did end up getting a small buff, but it really didn't do much, I feel like. It's still pretty much used in the same decks. It hasn't really revived the Magic Archer Tornado deck with the Wall Breakers. It's still pretty much only good in Bridge Spam and primarily with the P.E.K.K.A. So I still think it's kind of an average-ish card, surprisingly, because I thought that the buff was actually going to end up benefiting the card more, but that really hasn't been the case. And we're going to finish off C tier, guys, with the Cannoneer. The Cannoneer, in my opinion, is definitely the second best tower troop after the Princess. But I really don't think it's that great. I mean, it's going to be okay inside of mortar decks, but it's still, the Princess Tower is just going to be the best option pretty much in almost every deck you can think of, and that probably has just become pretty obvious recently to a lot of people. They really have killed the tower troops. Next, guys, we're going to start B tier with the Gob Drill. I feel like the Gob Drill has been pretty solid recently, especially after the Gob Demolisher buff. There's been other variations of Drill you've been seeing. And the Evo Snowball, of course, pairs very well with it. The Evo Tesla, too. Definitely a pretty solid and consistent win condition, but there's a lot that are better than it at the same time. Mother Witch, guys, is going to be next. There's been a lot of people using her recently, especially inside of Bridge Spam decks. I've noticed her a lot. And also RG. I think in this specific meta, she's just been really solid. A lot of P.E.K.K.A. decks have been running her as well. Delivery, guys, is going to be next, especially inside of Royal Hog Cycle and Miner decks. She, and I just realized I'm going to put the Mother Witch in C tier. The Delivery, guys, is going to be very good, especially against, kind of Bridge Spam decks, Swarm Bait decks, things along those lines. It's very good with the Miner as well as Royal Hog Cycle, and it's just going to be a phenomenal card to have defensively, and I think it's pretty underrated for sure. Earthquake, guys, is going to be next. Inside of Hog and Royal Hog Cycle, it's really solid for getting through buildings. I feel like it's always decent no matter the meta. It's just really great counter to all the pesky buildings in the game. I think it helps keep the pump in check, and it just allows you to break through all the buildings in the game, like the cannon as well. Wall Breakers, guys, ever since the Wall Breakers and Evo Wall Breakers got a nerf, they've definitely been toned down a little bit, but I still think that they're a B tier win condition. I mean, for only 2 Elixir, they're a very cheap and safe card to run, and you definitely cannot ignore them, especially if they're both played in the same lane, because they will deal a lot of damage and force a big response, and they can fit well in a lot of different decks, whether it's, Miner, for example, Recruits, Mega Knight, Gob Drill, or just a couple different things. I feel like they can just pair well in a lot of decks. Gob Gang is going to be next, guys. Ever since the Spear Gobs got nerfed, they've been a bit worse, but it's still definitely an above average card, I would say, in my opinion. Very good inside of bait decks and mortar, but just definitely more limited than all the things that could be used in before. The Ice Wizard, guys, is really solid. Haven't been seeing it as much inside of mortar. I've mostly now been seeing it inside of heavier decks, like with the Tornado and maybe inside of graveyard decks, for example, stuff like that. So it's definitely not everywhere like it used to be before, but it's just a very solid defensive card for only 3 Elixir, and it doesn't require the Tornado to be used now. The Expo, guys, is going to be B tier. I feel like it's just been in a very solid spot the last, especially this month. I feel like this month, guys, it's been in a decent spot. There's been a lot of people running it. Of course, it has a high skill cap, but I do genuinely think that it's a pretty viable win condition in this meta. There's some metas that are really bad for Expo, but I definitely think this isn't one of them, and if you're good with it, you can have a lot of success in this meta. I'm actually going to have it at the bottom of B tier, though, now that I think about it. Princess, guys, is going to be next. She's really good inside of log bait decks, of course, and not even just log bait, guys. Sometimes there's these rocket cycle decks with the Princess, and you don't even have the Gob Barrel. Hog Princess can be really solid as well, and Princess with the skeleton barrel, maybe. You don't even need the gob barrel, but she's just very valuable. A really nice secondary win condition. It can be really annoying to deal with if you don't have the proper spells. The Lightning Guys is going to be next. I feel like it's going to be really solid inside of things like Golem, Electro Giant. Maybe you even want to run an RG variation with the Lightning. It's going to be really solid against buildings. It's a nicer set. Definitely not one of the best spells in the game currently, but for sure an above average spell, I would say, especially inside of heavier decks. Suspicious Bush Guys has made a really big return recently inside of spam decks with the Evo Skeleton Army and the Boss Bandit, the Evo Skeleton Barrel. It's just been a menace, man, in those bait spam decks. It's been so obnoxious to deal with. That's definitely one of the most hated decks in the game right now. Bush definitely isn't broken, but I would say it's currently an above average card, especially because of the revival of those Bush spam decks. The Knight Guys is going to be next. I think he definitely fell off quite a lot now that the Hero Knight is in the game and the Evo Knight. There's just two other alternatives besides the regular Knight, so definitely not A or S tier, but I would still say he's a B tier card, and he's going to be a very solid tank. And there are still some people that, even with the Hero Knight being in the game and the Evo Knight, there's still people that run the regular Knight, which really goes to show how solid of a card that he still is, especially inside of things like Expo, for example, maybe a Graveyard deck, a Mortar deck, Drill, things along those lines. Dark Prince Guys is going to be next. It's been really solid recently, especially inside of Giant decks, I feel like, just for that splash you're getting, and I think that charge can be pretty annoying, and it's just proven to be more valuable recently than the regular Prince, probably because it's one less elixir, and it recently had a buff. I believe it was to its damage or health, I want to say, so that's definitely made the card a lot better. Sparky Guys, believe it or not, is actually really solid in this current meta because of the Evo Skeleton Army, how good it is, and also the Hero Giant has kind of revived Sparky as well. There's a lot of people running the Hero Giant with the Sparky and also the Evo Skeleton Army. It's a pretty broken combination. Same with the Mini P.E.K.K.A being very good as well. Berserker Guys is going to be B tier. There's a lot of different decks you can fit the Berserker in. Primarily, it's going to be cycle decks, like maybe with the Miner and the Gob Drill. You can't use her in just like every single deck in the game anymore, which is why she's B tier and not A or S after the nerf she got. But inside a variety of cycle decks, she's going to be a very solid mini tank that deals a high amount of DPS. The Gob Hut Guys is definitely a lot worse after all the nerfs it ended up getting. By no means is the card dead, but it's definitely significantly worse, without a doubt. You know, and it's going to be vulnerable to things like the Poison and the Earthquake, for example, so it's definitely not broken anymore after they gave it some nerfs, like to the hit points, for example, and the spawn frequency. The Zappies Guys, very solid card after the buff they ended up getting. They just get so much more value. It's pretty crazy, to be honest, how much more value the Zappies end up getting defensively. They're going to be good inside of some Royal Giant decks with recruits. A lot of Golem decks are running them nowadays. Bridge spam decks, so they're just really, really solid. They're just getting a lot more playtime, without a doubt. The Archer Queen Guys is going to be in B tier. She's going to be really good inside of Royal Hog Cycle. That's going to be the primary deck that you see her in. You could also run her, I guess, in maybe, well, I guess that's going to be the main deck. Mega Knight as well, maybe a Pumpo deck, but definitely a decent champion, especially because of Royal Hog Cycle, but definitely not as versatile as some of the other champions, which we're going to get to, which is why I think she's only in B tier. Giant Guys is going to be next because I think even though this is the regular Giant, I think out of all the heroes, I still think the Hero Giant is the worst one, and I just genuinely think the Giant is in a good place right now, not even just because of the Hero Giant, because things like the Sparky are a lot better because of the Evo Skarmy, and the Mini P.E.K.K.A's in such a good spot as well. The Graveyard with the Giant is just in a really good spot, so it's just kind of, it's a good meta for the Giant in general, even the regular version, not even counting the Hero. The Royal Hogs Guys are going to be next. Royal Hog Cycle is the primary reason for this. Recruits Royal Hogs is actually pretty dead. There's not many people running it in this current meta, but because of Royal Hog Cycle, we got to give them at least a high B tier ranking for sure. The Balloon Guys is going to be B tier as well. Definitely not as good as it usually is, which is why it's not in A tier. I think the Three Musketeers being very good right now have kind of made them be B tier at the moment, especially because there's less Lava Hound in this current meta as well. Could that change at the end of the season? Yeah, it definitely could, because for some reason at the end of the season there tends to be more Lava Hound, but as it currently stands, there's been less Lava Loon in the meta, which is why I'm having the Balloon in B tier, but Loon Cycle is still decent, of course, right now. Fisherman's going to be next, guys, pretty much because the main deck you can run it in is Royal Giant, but in Royal Giant, it's absolutely phenomenal, but it's not the most versatile card in the game, though, that's for sure. Rage is going to be next. It's going to be great inside of course, Toxic Spam decks, like maybe with the E-Golem, for example. It's going to be good inside of some Bridge Spam decks as well. And it's gonna, it's definitely not as broken as it used to be after the nerfs it got, but it can fit well in a lot of different things. It's a pretty consistent small spell in certain decks, so that's why I think it's B tier. The Royal Giant, guys, is going to be next. I think that it's pretty good this meta. I don't think it's as good as it was last month because of a few things. For example, the Evo Royal Ghost getting nerfed, the Barb Barrel, the E-Spirit. So it did get some nerfs, which I do think balanced it out a little bit. And the standard version especially, I don't think is as broken as it was last month. The Tornado, guys, is going to be next. I definitely think that it's one of the best spells in the game. Not quite A tier, though, ever since they nerfed it. It's definitely been a lot worse, especially in Magic Archer Tornado decks. But inside of Graveyard Freeze, Golem, Electro Giant, things along those lines, it's a very solid spell and well above average, of course. Next up, guys, we got the Skeleton King, which is going to be the last card in B tier. I think that it's a well above average card, barely out of A tier ever since they nerfed the radius of the skeletons. It used to be a bit larger, but they actually gave an emergency nerf to that. A lot of people don't know that, so that's made it a bit more balanced, but it's really good in the bush spam decks. It's going to be pretty good with the graveyard as well. It's good in mortar, so definitely good in quite a lot of things, but just not broken, and there's definitely a couple champions that are better than it, in my opinion. We're going to start off A tier, guys, with the Dark Gob. It's been really good recently inside of bait decks, mortar decks, just spam decks. It's been really good. Better than the Princess, in my opinion, and also it's better than the Evo Dark Gob. Ever since the Evo Dark Gob got nerfed, a lot of people have just been running the regular Dark Gob, which is really good because then it allows people to run two evolutions like the Evo Gob Barrel, for example, and something else. So that's partly why the regular Dark Gob has been so good, because the Evo Dark Gob got nerfed, which kind of buffed the regular version because just people are basically running that instead now. The Graveyard, guys, is going to be next. Really, really good win condition in this current meta, especially because Giant Graveyard has made a return. Graveyard Freeze is in a good spot. Graveyard Poison can even be used if you really want to. So there's three solid Graveyard decks that can be used at the moment, making it a very good card, obviously. The Bomber, guys, is going to be next. It's going to be good inside of Gob Drill decks. You could use it inside of Electro Giant and things like that. And even Giant decks can run it. It's just a very solid 2-elixir card for splash damage. Royal Ghost, guys, just the invisibility, the splash. Very valuable for only 3 elixir. And this is even just the regular version, not the evolution. Going to be very good inside of Royal Giant decks, Bridge Spam decks. You guys know the drill. Very, very good card. Vines, guys, even after the nerf they got, have proven to be very strong. Especially, they're still very good with Graveyard. Bridge Spam decks especially, though, guys, is where I noticed them being very, very solid. And also, I think... what was I going to say? With the Lava Hound as well and Balloon. The Bowler, guys, is in a really good spot this meta, especially with the Graveyard, the Electro Giant. Even some people are running, Bowler with Graveyard. Graveyard Freeze. Giant Graveyard, there's just so many people running the Bowler in this meta. It's been a great counter to the Bridge Spam decks, which so many people are running. The Heal Spirit, guys, for the first time in a while is in A tier because in this current meta, there's so many people running the Heal Spirit because of Three Musketeers and also the Sparky. So the Sparky and Three Musketeers have kind of revived the Heal Spirit, which might be kind of hard to believe, but it definitely is true, guys. It has been so solid in this meta with the Three Musketeers, the Sparky, and the Royal Hogs, and just Bridge Spam in general. Just so many of the spirits are really good right now, guys. The guards are really good. They survive arrows. They're going to be very good inside of Mortar decks. Really good counter to Bridge Spam. And they're good in like Lava as well. Giant decks. They're just a very consistent card, and I feel like they're pretty immune to spells and a lot of units, making them really good and better than the Gob Gang for sure, in my opinion. Mighty Miner, guys, a bit better than the Skeleton King, I would say, especially because it's very good inside of a lot of the cycle decks, especially with Hog. Hog Mighty Miner is so good. It's very good inside of Logbait decks as well. You could use it in Goblin Drill decks if you want recruit decks, and I just feel like it's a very valuable champion. That 1 elixir ability, sending it into the under lane, it's a really good card. The Poison, guys, is going to be next. I think that the Poison is going to be really good, of course, inside of Graveyard decks. Minor Poison, and I think those are the main decks it's good in. I guess you could also run it if you want inside of a Goblin Drill deck as well, so definitely a few different things you can use it in. Three Musketeers, guys, are going to be next. I don't think that they're S tier, but I do think that they're a very, very solid card without a doubt. I mean, they basically went from F tier to A tier after the rework. The only reason I don't think they're S tier is because I don't think they're being used enough to justify them being S tier. They are being used a lot more, but not to the point where they're completely broken. This could change in a month or two, but I do still think they're a top 20 card, which is pretty damn good, obviously, which is why I kind of have them in the middle of or the top of A tier here, I guess you could say. I mean, they're just the melee damage they deal, and they're just way more of a threat than they used to be, and you just can't go Poison to take them out anymore, Fireball Zap, which is very significant, and why they're so good against Lava Hound, and there's been less lava. The Hog Rider, guys, is going to be next. It's always a good win condition no matter the meta. It's very good inside of 2.6, Hog X NATO, Hog EQ, you name it. It's just viable no matter what the meta is, and if you don't have the right counters or build, it can be really difficult to deal with, and even if you do, it can just be out-cycled, obviously. The Rocket, guys, is also always a very solid spell, in my opinion, which is why it's going in A tier. I think inside of Logbait, it's very good. Gob Drill decks, it's very good. Expo decks, it's very good. There's some Rocket Cycle decks, Hog X NATO you can use as well. Just triple elixir going for that Rocket Cycle is so valuable, and even defensively, it's just so good as well in a lot of scenarios. If there's a push clump together, and then you're pairing it with a Tornado, you can just kill so many different things. The Cannon, guys, in my opinion, is the best building in the game right now. This includes kind of the regular cannon and the Evo cannon. A lot of people were overreacting about the Evo cannon nerf. It's still an amazing evolution, but even just the regular cannon, guys, is so good, which is why I think so many people run the Evo cannon, in my opinion. It's just great inside of Logbait. It's good inside of Goblin Drill. It's good inside of Royal Hog Cycle. You can even use it inside of Electro Giant if you want as well. Did I already say Hog? I can't remember, but yeah, it just fits well in so many different cycle decks. The Fire Spirit, guys, is going to be next. Fire Spirit's really good in this meta inside of a lot of people are running it with the Gob Drill. It's good with the Royal Hogs. Some people are using it with Logbait as well. Honestly, there seems to be so many people switching or using either the Fire Spirit or the Ice Spirit. Both are just so good in this meta. It's honestly really close between the two, which is better. The Ice Golem, guys, is really solid in this current meta because it's really good in Loon Cycle. It's obviously good with 2.6 and Hog decks in general, but it's also very good with the Three Musketeers, which so many people are using in this meta. So for that reason, guys, the Ice Golem is one of the best spots that we've seen it in a very, very long time. The Boss Bandit guys is going to be at the top of A tier here. The Boss Bandit guys, casuals and mid-ladder players hate a lot, and I think it is an insanely strong card. I don't think, though, I think it's barely at the moment actually not the strongest champion in the game, though. It could potentially use a small nerf or maybe get a rework, but because it is 6 elixir, I actually do think it's not completely busted, at least in this current meta. It is very good inside of bridge spam, though, but a lot of the top ladder players, there actually aren't as many people using it as you'd expect, as the meta has kind of started to, I guess you could say, finalize as we're getting to the middle of the season here. Let me just see how we're looking time-wise. Just want to check. Okay, I just wanted to check every, 10 minutes or so. All right. Mini P.E.K.K.A, guys, is going to be a start of S tier. So this might be a little bit of a hot take because the hero Mini P.E.K.K.A is in the game, but because of the Mini P.E.K.K.A getting 2 buffs in the last few months, that alone has already made the card really good. And I actually think even if it weren't for the hero Mini P.E.K.K.A, it would still be one of the top cards in the game because it just pairs well with so many other cards in the meta, especially, for example, the Giant, the Boss Bandit, just all the bridge spam decks right now. There's so many people using Hog Mini P.E.K.K.A as well, something that I haven't seen in quite a while. And it's just the DPS it does is absolutely insane. And just the fact that I think it's actually the best hero in the game too, I think that complements it very, very well. And I just think the Mini P.E.K.K.A, I would say, is an S tier card at the moment. It's just very, very good. And I think the buffs and just everything together and the hero kind of just amplifies it as well. It probably makes it seem stronger than it actually is, but it's very, very good at the moment. Barbarrel, guys, even after the nerf it got, is still S tier in my opinion. There's even a lot of people still using it inside of Royal Giant. It's being used with the 3 Musketeers a lot still. Obviously, Golem decks, Bridge Spam decks. There's a lot of decks still running it. Graveyard decks. It's basically the log of heavier decks. And even some faster cycle decks are still using it. It's still a really good counter to the Gob Drill and Bait decks. And the nerf made it a bit worse, and now I think log is a bit better than it, but I still think it's definitely S tier. These Spirit guys got a nerf. It didn't really do anything, if we're being completely honest. Royal Giant decks are still using it a ton. It's still very good inside of Expo. It's like Hog decks are still using it sometimes. The nerf didn't really do anything, to be completely honest. So the people that were kind of worried about the nerf, because it was the first nerf it ever got, don't really got to worry a ton. It didn't really do anything. I still think it's a bit better than the Fire Spirit. I still think it's S tier. I'm not saying it needs another nerf, but it's just so valuable for only 1 elixir. All the ways it can be used, and I don't think the nerf did much. The Golden Knight, guys, I think is the best champion in the game right now. Very good in a variety of decks. It's going to be very good with the 3 Musketeers. It's going to be paired very well, too, with things like the Mini P.E.K.K.A. It's very good with the Royal Hogs. It's very good inside of bridge spam decks, maybe with, like, the Cannon Cart, for example. Even Graveyard Freeze with the Bowler, it can be very good in. It's very good with the Electro Giant, for example. It's good with P.E.K.K.A. It's just, you can use it in so many different decks. It's pretty insane. It's just very versatile. And now that it can dash anywhere, it's just been drastically better. And that's why I think it's the best champion in the game. The Arrows guys are going to be next. I think that in this meta, especially because of how many people are running the minions, I just think that they're very, very solid and being used a lot. Being used around the same amount as Barbarrel, which says a lot because they're a 3 elixir card and the Barbarrel is a 2 elixir card. So I think Arrows are very good in this current meta. A really big part of it, in my opinion, is because of the minions. There's a lot of people running the minions even after the nerfs they gave it, simply because the range buff is why they're so good. That's the main reason why so many people are using them. So even though they nerf like the hit rate and the damage, they've still proven to be an S tier card without a doubt. They just fit in so many different decks, which is why they're so good. They even fit well like in the 3 Musketeers if you want to use them in that. A ton of different mini P.E.K.K.A decks, tons of different giant decks. Lava, if you want to run it in that. Mortar, they just fit well in a lot of different things. Miner Guys is going to be next. It got a nerf a couple months ago. It didn't really do much. It's still the most consistent win condition or secondary win condition in the game with Miner Poison, Miner Rocket, Miner Fireball decks even. It pairs well with the Loon. In Loon Cycle, it's good in Lava Hound. It's good in Mortar. It's good with the Giant. You can just fit it in so many different things. It's a very versatile card. Good with the Gob Hut as well. The few Gob Huts decks ran nowadays probably going to have the Miner in it. So it's just a very safe card to use. High skill cap. If you want to be getting a #1 finish with it, you got to be like Muhammad Light. But there's a reason why Muhammad Light has gotten #1 with it so many times, because when it's used correctly, it really can beat just about anything, which kind of shows how strong the card is when it's in the right hands. The Ice Spirit, guys, is the best spirit in the game, in my opinion, especially after the E-Spirit nerf. I think Ice Spirit barely surpasses it now. Very good inside of Logbait decks, inside of Hog decks. Royal Hog Cycle decks sometimes are using it over the Fire Spirit as well. Same with this case with the Gob Drill. Right, a lot of the cycle decks, like even maybe Expo, maybe run it over the E-Spirit, I don't know. Usually they're going to run E-Spirit though, but you get the point. I think it just barely takes it as the strongest spirit, especially among a lot of the cycle decks in the game right now. And it's better than the Evo Ice Spirit in my opinion, because the nerf that it got to the freeze duration impacted that more than the regular one. Fireball, guys, is going to be next. The Fireball is definitely better than the Poison right now. Whenever I'm ranking, like I think it was last tier list too, like people were surprised I put Fireball above the Poison, but if you just check, guys, there's more people running the Fireball in the top 200 than the Poison. Just that direct damage right now, a lot of people are really wanting this meta, especially inside of Hog decks like 2.6, but also Royal Giant, guys. Those are especially going to be decks where you are going to be seeing the Fireball all the time. Lava Hound as well, guys. Mortar decks are often, you're going to see it. And Giant too, guys. So many Giant decks are using the Fireball right now. Same with the Sparky as well. Even some Three Musketeer decks, guys, are running the Fireball just for that direct damage. It's just very valuable in this current meta to have that instant damage in a lot of scenarios. It's just being used more than the Poison. The Log, guys, is definitely better than the Barbaro right now, especially after the Barbaro nerf. You're seeing it more often, especially inside of cycle decks like Hog, Expo, Royal Hog Cycle, Goblin Drill decks. A lot of the Royal Giant decks, again, are running Log. Some have Barbaro, though. Some have Log. It really just depends, but you are seeing a lot more Log again. And I would definitely say it is currently the best spell in the game for sure after the Barbaro nerf. The Skeletons, guys, I think are going to be what I say is the best card in the game right now besides the Princess Tower, because the Skeletons, guys, I think are actually better than the Evo Skeletons. There's a lot of people running the Skeletons inside of Royal Giant, Hog decks, Goblin Drill decks, Expo decks, Royal Hog Cycle, whatever, log, like all the cycle decks, Skeletons, can't really go wrong with them. So valuable for only 1 elixir. Definitely better, guys, than the Guards, the Gob Gang. There's no question about that. Just having that 1 elixir cycle card is going to be very valuable. Not even saying it needs a nerf. They've been good for a while. It's just they fit well in a lot of the cycle decks. They get the job done for that cycle, that distraction for only 1 elixir, and they're just going to be very solid. More people use the regular Skeletons over the Evolution. And Princess Tower, guys, obviously the best tower troop in the game. I think there's no debate about that. I think that's obvious. I want to say 85% of the top 200 is using it. So really enough said there. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the tier list. I'm a bit sick, so hopefully my sniffling didn't bother you guys too much. I still wanted to get this out. and record it as best as I can. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. You can use credit code BOSS to support me in any Strip game, and let me know in the comments below what you guys agree and disagree with. And thanks again. Until next time, guys.